Hi, my name's Dan. So this is the soundtrack to the film The Wizard of Oz. The film was released in 1939. The list that I'm using to determine which albums to review says that this is 1956 album. Now, the timing of this is somewhat relevant, I think, because it's around 1955, 1956, it would seem, when the development of the 12-inch, 33 and a third RPM LP records started. And this expanded the amount that you could have on one disc to roughly 40 minutes. Some of them got more than that as the technology got better later. Until then, there were options for, shortly before then, there were 10-inch albums that were being produced. And before that, it was 78 RPM records, several of them bound together in a book, which is where the word album comes from. It's the concept of it being like a photograph album or something like that. So I think that the 1956 version was the first time the soundtrack for the film was released as a whole. I don't know if individual songs were released. They probably were before that. But finding a copy of the original album, even from streaming on Spotify, etc., was quite difficult. So I think I've ended up with a version that's from a slightly later version with a couple of extra songs on, which didn't actually find their way into the film. It is, of course, being original. Well, it's from the original soundtrack. It's not just the original cast. It's actually directly taken from the soundtrack from the film, and so that means it includes at points where there's music going on, having related to a song, and then they're dancing or doing business or whatever. There are some sound effects in here as well, which is is fine. So the songs are by a guy called Harold Arlen. The lyrics by Yip Harburg. The score was by Herbert Stobart. So I don't know what the demarcation there was of the different parts of that job. I suspect that means that Arlen wrote the songs, but Stobart wrote the orchestration for it, and also potentially he wrote incidental music for the film as well. I don't know. What else can I tell you? Over the Rainbow, obviously hugely famous song, and it won an Oscar for Best Original Song for that year. So the album is very true to the film sequence, and it includes songs that were, just like a tiny snatch of stuff, but in the order that they appeared. So there's quite an elongated bit when Dorothy arrives in Oz and she's meeting all the Munchkins and various happenings in that, which is in the film quite elongated. I have watched this film quite recently with my daughter, so it's quite fresh in my mind. So that was nice. The two songs that are on the version I listened to and were not on the original album were a song called Jitterbug, which apparently was from a sequence from some kind of music competition that they were going to have, and it is most definitely done in a kind of jazz swing style. Most of the rest of the songs are kind of, as you might imagine, from soundtrack from that sort of era. It's kind of show music. There was also the second extra track was a reprise of Ding Dong, so Ding Dong, Witch is Dead. The songs are hugely iconic, particularly the really well-known ones, Ding Dong, Witch is Dead, Follow the Yellow Brick Road, If I Only Had a Brain, and all the various versions of that. Follow the Yellow Brick Road happens several times because that's what happens in the film. And of course, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which happens near the beginning of the film. It's a mono recording, and it has that kind of old sound of, I say that the sounds kind of bleed into each other a little bit. So I wouldn't say mushy, but it's kind of there's less fidelity between the instruments, and they tend to snatch off at the end. Modern recordings always have reverb on, and the reverb kind of, when you have a sharp ending on something, there's usually a reverb hanging on that, whereas in these old recordings that didn't happen. So it's quite distinctive in that sense. I've done a lot of description. What did I think? I enjoyed it. I had fun. I listened to it twice, as I often do with these albums. The first time I listened to it was in the car, and the second time, actually, I got my daughter, and we sat and did other things whilst we listened to it, and we had a nice time. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I like the songs. I'm not always a huge fan of show music, but there's some really well written songs here. They're so memorable. So yeah, what do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. That's it from me for now.
I heard